what do you remember of your Christmases when you were a child? Is it all the fancy gifts and you made a list for your Santa parents and you got everything on that list? Or do you remember the times that you had a special occasion at Christmas? You had something special happen at Christmas. It was family time. You did carols if you like carols. You ate fruit cake if that was your jam with your family. You had all those memories. What do you remember? There's a cultural pressure right now that we are feeling currently. I was doing some research, and this year in 2023, they're expecting a $1.3 trillion worldwide retail consumer amount of money being purchased over Christmas. There is a reason for the season, and it isn't the gifts. Not that gifts are bad, but we have to look at our family. And today we want to talk about finances and having small children, finances and being married and what that looks like. Because when you're not having the amount of resources you would love to have, Christmas is something that can be quite daunting.
Welcome to another episode of Amplified Marriage. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Brian.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, as you hear us say always, grab a tea, grab a coffee, a snack, get cozy and comfy. We're so glad you're here to have our chat today.
And just for your listening pleasure, if you happen to miss 2 weeks ago, we did an episode, kind of wrapped up the silent strain. We did tension, fear, and a couple others. This last one was all about just the misconceptions about those relationships, misconceptions about tension in marriage. And so if you get a chance, it'd be great if you go back and listen to that.
Mm-hmm. Today we're talking about, a topic that's, I guess, near and dear to our hearts. We've titled this, and perhaps this will be a Christmas series because we've got 3 episodes before the new year. This is
a working title. This is not like the final. Yeah. Don't give the title because I don't want people to be like, oh, they didn't use that one.
Yeah, that's right. But for us, when we had littler kids, and I mean, we've got, one adult and 2 teenagers, and so back when they were younger, we just struggled incredibly with finances. Mm-hmm. And especially around Christmas time. And, generally we struggled. Our kids are like, we were poor.
They think when they can't get Pepsi that we're poor.
And if we're, defining poverty by how much
Christmas
money
gifts
you have and how much Christmas, then we were dirt poor.
Wow.
And it got us talking about what are some of the struggles with this season coming in. And that was just the first thing that popped to my mind was the pressure to provide a Hallmark Christmas movie, Christmas,
right,
for your children. And what does that look like when you physically can't?
Well, I think that I have really strong opinions about Christmas, and I think partially because we've had to live it with our own kids, but also this attitude that, like, even when I said before, the way we look at Christmas with the way that the culture is telling us you have to do this, you have to have make a list. It's very commercialized. You have to make the gifts that you want. We believe in our house, and we do this. It's all about family. It's all about we're not going to get the kids know that if they give us a list of 10 or 12 things they really want, they're going to get a couple. They're not getting the whole thing. That's been the way it has been in our house. Because we don't want our kids to think that, every Christmas they're going to get everything they want. Because as our kids, anyone that has kids that's listening to this, you're going to realize that as your kids get older, their tastes get more expensive.
Exactly.
If I ask my 18-year-old what he wants for Christmas, he's telling me some kind of PC part that costs like $400.
Yeah, we're not doing it.
Yeah, my other son is a musician, and if I ask him what he wants for Christmas, it's some kind of $400 MIDI keyboard or plug-in thing for his guitar. Like it changes, and so there's this so heavy undue pressure unneeded pressure on parents to provide what you said earlier, which is a really good way to put it, a Hallmark Christmas, that really ultimately, in my opinion, and I would say just to take the pressure off yourself, in my opinion, it is unnecessary.
Right. And, when I was just sharing this with Brian earlier, but back when our kids were little, we didn't have YouTube and Instagram and all these, TikTok, if you're into that, which we're not. But people sort of like influencing, some of the videos that have come across my newsfeed have been like, look at all the things we're buying our kids for Christmas. And I was like, well, isn't that kind of fascinating? Because it does one of two things. And yes, if you have the ability to provide a miraculous Christmas for your kids, all the power to you.
Yeah.
And this isn't a
yuck your yum because you can do that.
No, that not at all. But a lot of people can't provide that for their kids. And so, yes, they can choose not to watch your video. That is very true.
Yeah.
So we're speaking from non-socialized, or like, we didn't have the social influences that we have today back when our kids were little. So, we beat ourselves up, and the guilt was just as fierce.
It's crazy.
And the shame was just as fierce back when we didn't have YouTube and all of these platforms. The intensity of the feeling of not being able to provide Christmas as what you imagine Christmas is supposed to be. And yes, we know Jesus is the reason for the season, but there's an element of blessing and being a blessing to others and to our children, and that we just could not provide.
Also, just a reality of what we're inundated every single day with when it comes to Christmas. Like you go on to what you said, you go onto Instagram, you watch any commercials, well, we don't have cable anymore, but you watch anything, anywhere. This time of season, everything is pushing you to buy, and get that perfect gift or get the diamonds for your, like here, we're talking about the strain when you have little children. There's a strain even when you're just early married to buy the perfect gift, and it has to be expensive. And
yes,
unless you've had those conversations, that can be a tough conversation to have in general about finances when it comes to Christmas time, because it's interesting because as an adult, when I need something, I go out and buy it.
Right.
And at Christmas time, the things that I want.
Well, now.
Yeah, now because we have the finances, but there's things that, like, if I'm looking, I really need to replace my earbuds. It's not like an end of world thing if I don't get it right now.
Right.
Right. Like it's. Yep. But as an adult, I'm going to wait until it's feasible, and then I'm going to go out and do it.
Right, which is generally if it's on sale.
Yeah, and if it's one of those things that, like, but that's a luxury. That's not a necessity. That's just a luxury.
Exactly. When our kids were little, we went without.
Oh, yeah.
So they did not.
Yeah, so...
And so, painting a picture of what that looks like, our kids needed boots, or our kids needed clothes, or our kids needed snowsuits and winter clothes. We lived in a northern climate, which it snowed all the time. It was cold.
Yep.
And so we were duct taping our boots because our kids needed... They got before we got.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because, we weren't self-caring. No, it was legitimately so that they didn't freeze to death, right? Like...
Yeah, we're in the north. They need to have warm clothing.
Exactly.
Well, and then there's times I just remember where we'd eat less, or I would go without a meal because we didn't have groceries, or 2 days away.
Yeah. Or we're eating macaroni and cheese, and they're eating the last of the chicken and rice, right?
Yeah, I remember like doubling up on like pairs of socks because one pair had a hole in them, but I needed not to have holes. I put another pair over top, and I couldn't wear. And like I need to be extra warm, and so you do what you get. Like just little things that you do. I remember always scavenging laces from other boots to fit the ones that I had.
Exactly, and like you had a job, and we still had rent to pay, and we still had gas to put in the vehicle, and food to put in the fridge. And this is like 16 years ago. It was way cheaper than it is now.
Yeah.
And so like all of our rent and our bills and our hydro and our gas and all of that was paid, which meant there was like no money left over for any extras.
Yeah.
So when we're saying, we providing Christmas as far as the commercial side of Christmas and being able to buy our kids presents was really challenging.
Right.
Because there wasn't extra money to do that.
Well, I remember a time when we were early married and even early with kids that you're like, you can't get a coffee today. We have to have that $2 will be the difference between us being able to pay off a bill and not being able to pay a bill.
Exactly. Now, having said that, and this is just a plug-in for finding community.
Yeah.
At this time of the year, especially because we were plugged into a really great church and we had community. And that wasn't to say that we leached off the community by any stretch of the word. We went about doing what we'd always done, and we were on a very strict budget.
Yeah.
And the Lord used that, like the community that we were involved, to bless us, and they did.
Yeah.
And so we never, even when it felt like, oh, we've got our last like $1.50 in the bank, Lord, somehow by his miraculous provision, we'd get a gift card for Superstore.
Yeah,
We'd get a gift card for Walmart, or we had a gentleman in our church.
That
at the
wasn't
time.
Just at Christmas. That was
no, like
the Lord
that was throughout the year, right? But you know, we really, I'll speak to me. I really felt the guilt and the pressure to not provide Christmas gifts for my kids, and so.
And I didn't feel the Christmas gift so much as just the overall pressure as the breadwinner of the house to be able to look after the house.
Right.
Right. And to be able to, as long as like and it was never that like I was carrying that weight without you knowing about it. It's not like that's a surprise to you, but men carry that weight when you're the breadwinner of the home, and that's what you need to do. And it's not when Natalie's worked a lot. Like even when the kids were young, she always had a part-time thing happening, cleaning, blah, blah, blah. But there's just this weight all the time that it's not just Christmas. Whereas you're focused on Christmas, I'm thinking, Lord, I need to pay rent every single month. I need to make sure that they have clothes and shoes and school supplies. School supplies are embarrassingly expensive, right? Like I needed uniforms when the kids were at the traditional school, or they need teeth when the kids get older. Like all of these things that happen that I'm just constantly mulling about. Like I want to be able to take them away on a vacation.
Yeah, there was no vacation.
There was no vacation. And like we had people pass away in our family, and we couldn't even afford unless someone helped us come down, which happened a few times.
Yeah.
Because it was even.
But how embarrassing.
Right. And that's the thing is that for us, it was less so for me, but still embarrassing. When someone or my mom or my brother-in-law, Jeremy, would be like, hey, I'm here to help. Like, what do you need? Like, and we had that kind of thing, right? Like it's embarrassing, but there was times that we couldn't do trips and come down and because someone passed away because we just didn't have the finances to be able to take it from Alberta all the way to BC, which in our van back then was still $200, $250 there and back just in fuel because it's a van.
Right. And, you know, it seemed as though every time we got a little bit ahead,
something
there was
broke.
Some catastrophe where like our van cost $3,000 to fix, or all of a sudden we needed new tire. And like we're speaking from experience, this legit happened.
At one point, I remember me and you and this was back when the van was still like relatively newish. It was only 4 or 5 years. Just thinking, what's the point of saving money if every time we get ahead, we have to blow it?
It was
on like what they're not stupid things like
things that we don't want to have to repair the car. We'd like for that money to be used for something else.
Yeah, like we want to. Yeah, we like let's get all that we need for school or for food. And every time we had any kind of substantial amount of savings, it was always our vehicle. For quite a few years, it was our vehicle that just burned us. Like it was so annoying.
Yeah, but it was hard, and it was humiliating to have to, at one, ask for help, and two, lay our pride down. And I'm speaking to myself, lay my pride down to receive the help, as in the food bank. And
that was a hard one.
That I remember.
That was a hard one to swallow.
One year specifically when you or someone we knew had signed us up for a food bank because we would not sign ourselves up because it was so embarrassing. And it came time to like get it. And I said to Brian's like, should we go? And I'm like, well, you can go. There's no way I'm going. I was just so embarrassed. And
I went because I understood it.
And you went, and I remember like, I'm getting emotional. I just remember feeling so discouraged because, like, in my mind, you've reached the bottom if we're at a food bank. And I was like, Lord, like, it was just the most humbling.
Yep.
I'm so grateful for the food bank, but there was a lot of emotions, as you can still tell. It put into perspective how blessed we were.
Yeah.
Because of the generosity of others donating to the food bank so that they could be a blessing to us.
And how helpful the food bank was to lots of people. How
helpful the food bank was. And it wasn't a...
We're better than them.
No, but your mind plays tricks on you if you are in a position where you are needing that kind of help. And it was one of those things where it was like I could hold on to my pride and my children could go hungry. Or I could let go of the pride and just be like, you know what, this isn't going to be forever.
That's right.
And we will be in a position one day to be able to return the generosity.
Right.
So, I say that to say, if you find yourself in the similar situation, it's not always going to be that way. And I say for the ones who are in a position to be a blessing, what a great time of the year.
Yeah.
You know, and we're in a position now where we can be that blessing and we can pay it back and we can pay it forward so that other people who might be feeling the weight at this time of the year, maybe that will just ease it a little.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember after I came back and you saw all the food that they were giving away, and that wasn't even the only time. There was another time. We'll get to that in a minute. But I remember us talking about it, and then subsequent weeks after that, the following week or two, and how it was in that moment that we realized that almost this we eat the pride, we push back on it, and we're like we're going to have to ask for help, and how that in the future made it for us so much. It's still hard to ask for help because, you know, we're self-sufficient people, we're independent, but it also paved the way for us to be able to look back and be like, hey, people blessed us immensely and took care of things. I remember one year, I don't know who signed us up for this. I suspected, but they would always deny it to my face. But the one year we get a knock on the door, I got a phone call on my work cell phone. And I'm like, hi, this is Brian. Because I work sometimes. I worked with drug addicts. And sometimes I get phone calls at like 8 o'clock at night. And I get this phone call from someone. Hey, this is something from, I can't remember the name of the Canadian.
It was Shoppers.
No, it was
Canadian Wholesale.
Canadian Wholesale. Every year, someone puts a name in. Like people put names in, multiple names. Like probably 100 names will go into this thing. And Shoppers Wholesale will bless one or two families.
Right.
And so I get this phone call saying, hey, this is Canadian Wholesale. And I thought I had a wrong number. I'm like, that can't be us. And I laughed on the phone. He's like, yeah, this is Brian. He said, no, we don't know that you're coming. And said, hey,
well, you redirected them to me.
He was like, yeah, no, I think I was like, Nat, did you sign up for anything? And you're like, no. I was like, okay, what's going on? So literally 5 minutes later, this truck pulls up.
No.
Yeah. What do you mean? No. Because
this was we were expecting our daughter on a Tuesday. And so they had phoned on like
yeah. Pregnancy.
Yeah. They had phoned and they said, hey, it's, you know, we got your name and you congratulations, you won. And myself was like,
oh, scam.
It's a scam.
Bring scam. That's what I mean.
It's
like, did you sign up for anything?
Like I'm going to tell you where I live.
Yeah.
Anyways, they laughed on the phone. They're like, I know it seems hokey pokey, but it's legit.
I'm pretty sure they didn't use hokey pokey.
And so I was like, whatever, we'll see if you show up. So Monday, the day before our daughter was born, it was a 5-ton?
Nah, it was a cube van, but like a 3-ton.
It was big. Showed up and it was just
like bag
legit. And boxes after boxes.
They outfitted all of our kids with complete snowsuits, gloves, toques, scarves, jackets, boots. They gave us food to last us like 2 months. They gave us gifts. the kids' gifts,
the unborn baby gifts.
the unborn baby. They gave us diapers and
wipes, which, for those who are new parents, that is
that's
such
magic.
a blessing.
That's magic.
That stuff is costly.
Yeah, right. And so they gave us all this stuff, and I'm standing in there just in awe, like, what is happening? And Natalie's standing in the kitchen, just kind of like crying. You were crying in the kitchen. Well, you're about to have a baby, so you're like, I'm done with this.
Uber emotional.
Like, I need to have this child out of me now. And it was just an emotional time. And they literally walked in, said, "Merry Christmas, be blessed," and turned around and walked out. And that was it. Like, there was no big fanfare.
And they had wrapped everything. And so they had asked, so the people that we suspect knew our family very well and knew the kids' interest. And so we didn't know what they had because everything was wrapped in Christmas wrap. And so again, it was kind of like that motion of like, I can provide for my own family.
Yep.
Like, I don't need a handout. And so there was that initial thought that had come through my mind, and I was a little perturbed of how it appeared. Oh, it's so silly in hindsight.
Yeah,
but
because
when you're going through it,
it's interesting because we have now been on the other end of that.
Yeah.
With church and with friends and family, where we've rallied around people in our church that have really needed help. And we've been on the end where we're going to someone's house and we're bringing them groceries, or we're bringing them money, or we're on that end of it now. And now that we're there, we're looking at them like not like what you're trying to get to is like, how they must think that we're less than. We're not. Right. We're actually like, you just needed a hand up.
Yeah, and we've been there.
Yeah, and so you have to get to the place where you have to eat your pride, and this is the thing, is that there's an incredible amount of pressure on families at Christmas time, and it's not just marriages, not just because when you're married now you're having to buy gifts for family members that you just don't know that as well, right? But I want to say this, contrary to the pressure that culture puts on us, you do not have to buy everything on your kid's Christmas list.
No, if you can purchase one thing, then purchase one thing. If you can't purchase anything, the thrift stores are great at finding, and we've done it at the thrift store.
And here's the thing is that disappointment never killed anyone.
No.
I know this is hard for people to hear. And there's something that my pastor and I say all the time, is that we have to learn how to do the hard things better. Being disappointed actually is a great lesson in disappointment. We've been disappointed many times in our life, as has probably anyone that's listening to this podcast. You have experienced disappointment. Mm-hmm. It is hard. It brings on lots of frustration, lots of emotion, lots of things. But toys are hear me when I say this, gifts are just gifts. Right. Toys are just toys. They will remember you being together. Some of the best dates that Natalie and I have ever had, even when we've had kids, have been the ones where we've had a little bit of money.
Yeah. And
the only thing we could do was go and get two ice cream cones for $2 at McDonald's and go for a drive.
Exactly.
Some of the best dates that we've had, the most conversation, the most connection, not the ones where I dropped $200. Like, those are good dates. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Those are fun that you do once in a while. We do once every 3 years. But the ones where you're dropping big money, do you know what matters is when you and your
company that you're with.
Yeah. Your family remembers that you made Christmas the best that you possibly could. My kids aren't going to remember the fact that they may remember if I buy them a really great gift.
Yeah.
But they're going to remember, hey, Dad cared enough about me to do his best at Christmas time with little to make sure that I was looked after.
Exactly. And what did we do? We handmade stuff.
Yeah. Well, when you say you mean you.
The kids and I, right? And like I didn't have the money to go to Michael's, and I didn't have the money to go to Walmart for Christmas decor. So the kids and I made Christmas decor. And so looking for ways to ease, like a lot of times our boys had kind of a joint gift because we couldn't afford to buy them separate ones, but we could afford to buy them one gift that they would enjoy playing with together, like a Hot Wheels, or
we got the hockey thing,
like that, right?
The hockey that we played that so often.
Lots of Christmas baking, and like use that time of like, hey, we might not be able to physically buy and fill a ton of presents underneath the tree, but what can we do? We can create memories with our kids. And even now when we ask our kids, hey, what do you remember? Like, did you feel the lack? And they're like, no, like it was, you guys always made it fun. And so with what we had, we created
Yeah.
a Christmas for our children, whether or not, and I handmade gifts as well, right? So like not only crafted, but also handmade. I made the kids' sock monkeys. So
those were awesome and not creepy.
No, they weren't creepy, but something like, what do I have that they would really love? And they still have their sock monkeys. So it's not about spending a ton of money, and not because we couldn't, but what could we do with what we had and make it festive and make it fun? And so we always have done appetizers, and the appetizers could be chicken nuggets and fries. Like,
remember Dino Nuggets?
Yes. Yeah. And it was just,
but it's going to be the atmosphere you create, not the gifts that you give, right?
Exactly.
Like the gifts are a bonus in life.
They are.
But
if you're in a position to be able to do that,
then
right?
we bless our kids, and we always and we bless others. That's always been the thing. But if you can't do that, if you're early married, or even you're married and you're just struggling, you got laid off. Like we know of a family right now that got laid off the week before December, and he won't go back to work until April potentially, right? And so there's just, we know that this happens.
Yeah, you were laid off.
I was laid off at Christmas. No, that sucked. That was really hard.
It was horrible.
It was horrible. And we are waiting on, this was funny. We were waiting on my EI to come in, and then we get an email and tell us, it was like we've heard in the news, they ran out of money, so they had to wait.
Yes.
And so I ended up having to wait for an extra 2.5 weeks for my EI to come in. And you're like, Lord, what are we supposed to do here?
It was, I forgot about that. What a dumb thing.
Yeah.
That was where the government ran out of money.
And
but
maybe,
that was what they had said anyways.
Maybe that was just like on something else entirely, but I just remember the government ran out of money.
It was on that.
Was it? I didn't.
On the EI. But, this is to say, it isn't about the cost of the presents that are under the tree.
Yeah.
So I really want you to hear that and to be like, well, if you're in a position of not wanting, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. And I would never, harp on someone for being able to provide for their family. We're speaking strictly out of a place of not being able to,
and that there's
in the way that we want to.
And we want you to feel like there's other alternative ways to handle the pressure of this season.
Yeah. And
right?
we always had food in the house.
Yeah.
And
for them, at least.
For them. And, like with the food hampers and whatever, they're really good about giving a turkey or a ham or stuff like that, right? So we always had a Christmas meal and stuff, and I did baking.
Yeah.
And so, and we always do Christmas lights and stuff like that. So we do things that didn't cost money.
Yeah.
But still was an experience for the kids.
For sure. I had this written down here. Is it a reminder of the simplicity and the value of presence over presents? Presence with the C and presence with the T. That you being there for your kids as much as you possibly can, you being there for your family, you being there for your wife, or you being there for your husband, that's more important than the gifts that you bring.
100%.
Absolutely. I want to hear, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you love this. This is your favorite thing. What is a short 10, 15 second, maybe that's too short, encouraging word for parents or for families, for couples, for families with children that are actually experiencing these challenges?
Reach out for help.
Yeah.
And if that means needing the assistance of a food bank, a church,
organization, charity.
Yeah. Honestly, do it. That's what they're there for. And it's not a reflection of how good of a parent you are or how good or not good of a provider you are. Hear that. It's not a reflection of who you are as a person when you need those resources.
Absolutely.
That is what they're there for. I am so grateful to have been the recipient of those, even though I had to work through some of the emotional stuff that I felt like it told people about me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so the stigma, that's the word. There's a stigma in my mind at that time of, if you needed a food bank, then, you must not work and you must, right? There was just this. Exactly. And I was like, but I just don't want people to think differently of me because I need a food bank. So there was an emotional emotional toll that it took and a processing of that. And I say, I am so incredibly grateful for the friends and the family that had reached out and had been a blessing to us over the years, and the food banks and, you know, the Canadian wholesale. And if there are not contests, but like, hey, we're looking to bless a family this year, and you know of someone, take that step. And like, they didn't ask our permission, and we probably would have been mortified had they said, hey, what are your thoughts on this? We'd have been absolutely not.
You don't tell anyone that we're even struggling.
Don't ask for permission, and just be that like secret blessing behind the scenes.
That's really like the best way to go through the season is with the help of friends and family. And reach out for help
in this climate where everything is so expensive and inflation is through the roof. You know, if we have an extra turkey in the fridge, we are going to bless someone with it, because we don't need 2 turkeys, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so look at what you have. What can you be a blessing? Yeah. How can you be a blessing? And look out for your neighbor. Absolutely.
So here's what I want all of you listeners to do. I want you to share your story. You can share it with us on any of our social, but I want you to share a little bit of your story about, and we're going to post some things this week, but share the story about tips that you have that actually helped you, maybe how you got through it. Maybe there's a mental health struggle that you went through that would help someone else.
Right.
And there's a few ways that you can do it. Always at the end of these episodes, and we always ask, hey, if you like this is what I want you to do. Take that, answer those questions. If you have something for us, email it to us. You can find us on Instagram or Facebook. You can email it at amplifiedmarriage@gmail.com. Also on our website at amplifiedmarriage.ca. On the bottom right-hand corner, there's also a little voicemail. You can actually click on there and actually leave a voicemail through your computer, and it'll actually come to us, and then we can actually use that and potentially feature that on the podcast with a question or a comment, something that we can do. But this is a really great opportunity. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you, from the way that you've worked through the budget restraints of Christmas, through the mental health of Christmas, the struggle of those things. We want to hear from you and all those things that might be beneficial to others that are listening to this podcast. And again, if you like this podcast, it means a tremendous amount to us when you share it and you let people know about Amplified Marriage. You can, again, contact us, but also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And you can reach us through email at amplifiedmarriage@gmail.com. And as you have heard us say many times, we believe that your marriage can be reset,
refreshed,
recharged,
and restored.
Thanks for listening.
Talk to you soon.